it's not a simple one. It's a full journey. I lived a long life. And I would say one word that describes my life journey is contrast. I've been on both ends of many different equations, from being born a son of a communist mayor. My dad is just my hero. He passed away 23 years ago, but he's somebody I still try to live up to the image of him. He was recognized by Gorbachev in his final address to the Soviet Union as a man just did a lot for the Communist Party. And I went from that life to losing it all when communism fell apart, Soviet Union fell apart, to being homeless, not having enough food on our table. We had potatoes for breakfast, we had potatoes for lunch, and we had potatoes for dinner, and that's just what we did, and it was normal. And then the other contrast came in when I moved to the United States. Back in '99, I came in 3 days after Columbine shooting happened, and I came in and I was like, here's this land of the free, America, and the dream is there, and then I see that happening. And it just blew my mind, and how people just do things like that, and I couldn't understand it. And then from there, I went from being this guy that was just couldn't be wrong. My ego was the size of the universe, and I've gotten in fights with people by walking on the street and looking at each other wrong and just literally fighting it out, because that's how it was back home. And now I grew into somebody that I'd like to believe that my ego doesn't matter. It's not about me. It's not about who I am, what I do. It's about what I can do for others. It's about what kind of legacy and impact we can leave behind. And really what got me there is all the people that's come in front of me throughout my life. It's my father, it's my mother, it's all the mentors and individuals in my life that poured their heart and soul into making me what they saw I could be, not judging me for the person that I was in the moment, not going and saying, you know what, this is a screw up, let's focus on somebody that has a better, shine, looks better on the surface. They looked beneath, they looked within, and they saw that there was just a lost kid that wanted to find his way. And I was doing it the wrong way. I was doing it trying to chase people's opinions of me. I was trying to chase being liked. I was trying to chase fitting in. And really over the last 6 years, I worked my butt off to come to a point where I don't want to chase anything. I want to chase what's inside of me. Because when the purpose is greater than the individual, we start to no longer matter. And we just care that the purpose is coming closer. We're getting to a place where our vision to make the impact on the world is happening. It's live. It's actually coming into fruition. And finally, I'd say about 3 years ago is when the shift started to happen. And now I teach identity and do all these things, but all of that comes from a life experience. And that's what each of you have, is that kind of experience that is one of a kind. There's nobody out there in the world like you, and you just got to know it's all within you to succeed. What I love about my journey is people like to call me an old soul. I've experienced a lot of different things, and the same word that I would describe my journey is my favorite part about it. You can't appreciate life truly for what it is until you have a contrast, until you can see the other end of it and be able to say, you know what, life is better than I thought it is, because now I see how the rest of the world has it. And I love that I was able to see the world from military standpoint and going to Iraq and seeing how things were there. I love that I was able to see it from Ukraine, Russia, that world, and how in the world in America we call buildings projects, where that's normal living there. That's just how it is. And it makes me appreciate everything so much more. It makes me able to look at situations and not see doom and gloom a lot of times, and just seeing opportunity in things, seeing how somebody can go from somebody like myself that was a complete screw up. And I'll be the first person to say it. I wasted so much of my youth on just not applying myself, on not being my best version of me. But my favorite part is what I was is no longer me. I get to change it. I get to control it. I get to be that person. And because now I'm making that change and I've made it, I'm really excited. I'm really pumped. And that's why I don't want to say that it's something that I've accomplished. I don't want to say that it's a culmination. It's really the journey of itself is what I love. I love being able to see that contrast. So my biggest advice to people would say, learn to appreciate the small things. If you can learn to feel the sunshine on your cheek and feel just as much fulfillment from that as you do from landing a big contract at work or whatever it may be, your life will always be fulfilled. And that's what I can say about myself, is that I wake up every morning with a smile on, because I got a roof over my head, I got a beautiful wife next to me, I got kids in my bed jumping around, Like, in all honesty, when we sit down and we think about it, what else do we need? But we won't understand that until we see the contrast of what everybody else may be dealing with. But we don't see that fathers that have to go into the world and work for 6 months at a time somewhere in a different part of the world, because that's the only place they can find work. That's the only place they can find enough money to be able to sustain their family, to provide for them what they need. I get to do that every day. So what else do I really need besides that? Not much, right? So that's what I would say, guys. Just look around and enjoy the journey for the contrast. What would I change about my journey is a very simple question. It's nothing. The answer for why is not as simple, because whenever we change something, you look the movie Back into the Future, I don't know if you guys seen it, but you go and you change one little thing, and all of a sudden the outcome becomes something completely different. It could have been a small turn on the road, but now you're in a completely different place. And the reason I wouldn't change anything is because I'm so happy with where I'm at. Does my life have places of improvement? Absolutely. Everybody's always going to have that. But I'm learning to look at my life for everything that it has versus everything that it doesn't have. And that's what's allowing me to enjoy and have this fulfilled life. For those reasons, I wouldn't go back and do a single thing. Now, I look back in my life, there's so many mistakes. Guys, I probably made more mistakes than anybody watching this video, or at least as much. And for that reason, I love talking to people that have been in prisons and people that have made serious mistakes, because, I was talking earlier today, and I just didn't get caught. Now, with all that said, I still wouldn't change anything, because had I not had that growth, had I not had those mistakes in my life, I wouldn't have the perspective. I call myself a perspective junkie because all I try to do is soak up everybody's perspective as much as I can to grow my perspective piggy bank. And I feel that right now, at a very young age, I have been fortunate enough to be wealthy with perspective. And I think that's one of the best ways to accumulate wealth is to have that kind of wealth of perspective. So for that reason, keep everything the same. I take the pain with the good and the bad and the happiness and put it all into one experience. My life has been this experience, and if I change one, I might as well throw it all away. So for that exact reasons, keep it all the same. What I want my legacy to be is, it's not a specific thing. It's not accomplish X or Y. I want my legacy to be my mission. My mission is to help 10 million people to realize their potential by impacting their mind and their body. And the reason for that is because I have a skill that people tell me, and they say, Anton, you always see more in us than we see in ourselves. And it is very true. When I meet a person, I don't necessarily judge them by what they're presenting or what clothes they wear. I see the fire that comes from within them. I see that spark. For some of it's a very small, dim spark that you have to kind of nurture and build, and then it becomes a fire. But every single person in the world is capable of having a bonfire of massive proportion when it's properly nurtured. So what I want my legacy to be is, I want to create those 10 million of people that have those burning fires of passion. Because every one of those fires can ignite 10 million other fires. And if that's what we focus on, is igniting somebody else's fire, the world becomes a better place. Everybody says, be the change you want to see in the world, and that's exactly what I want to do. I want to help others to become the best versions of themselves. So when I pass and people remember me, I want my funeral to look like my father's. This is a crazy thing that my father's funeral was probably the most vivid memory I have in my life, and the biggest thing that drives me. They had, obviously, when a mayor of a city passes away, you're going to be prepared, right? You're going to have a good amount of people turn out. So they put a bunch of chairs in this massive courtyard, and they didn't have enough. It was a funeral where people had to walk for 3 miles just to catch up and get to the funeral, because not a lot of people are driving back there. That's what I want my legacy to be. My legacy is going to be how I am remembered in people's hearts and minds. It's not a physical, tangible thing. It's a feeling. I want to be able to float around like a little ghost in the air in my funeral and feel the love that I was able to infuse into other people, feel the impact I was able to make for them, and ultimately feel what now they're doing themselves, how that reciprocity is creating a chain that's going to lead to them doing that to somebody else. It's going to lead the other person doing it to somebody else. And like wildfire, it begins to spread. I want to be the spark that ignites that wildfire.